Member for St. James North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak in support of these land and housing resolutions which are before your Parliament. I will speak mainly, sir, on the acquisition of the lands in Belplain, St. Andrew, but I would also touch on the acquisition of the lands for building block in Bush Hall, as well as on the botanical gardens, and generally on housing and land policy of the Barbados Labour Party. So the acquisition of the land in Belplain is, and I state up front, sir, of ancestral interest to me. Dame Ermintrude Bourne, my father's first cousin, her father and my grandmother were siblings. And, you know, I probably would not be in elective politics today but for that kind of family background. She is someone who I knew from the time I was very young. Both of my father's parents were born in St. Andrew, where she represented. Her father before her, sir, and hasn't been said yet here in this Parliament, her father was Member of Parliament for St. Andrew before her, and she in fact took over from him. So she had that background as well of encouragement into politics. She was one of 13 or 14 children. And it is, when you look at that time, sir, 1951, when she was first elected, Uncle Dari, her father, could have, if he wanted one of his siblings, his children to take over, he could have offered any one of the boys, of the sons, but he chose Auntie Ermi. And small woman in stature, physically very small, but a large personality, sir. Tremendous personality, one of the most outstanding and commanding people that I have ever met in my life. And she has mentored, I know for sure, she also helped mentor the Honourable Member for St. Michael North, because he used to visit her as well certainly before he became a Member of Parliament, when he first ran, to get pointers and tips on electoral politics and how to win a seat. She was Member of Parliament for St. Andrew for 10 years, and these were the days, sir, when they had double member constituencies, and that was terminated in 1971, but each constituency had 2 seats up to 1971, each of the 11 constituencies, and then the city of Bridgetown had 2 seats, so there were 24 seats in those days. And on both occasions that she was elected to be Member of Parliament of St. Andrew, she was elected senior member of Parliament. So she won the most votes. I remember, sir, in 1956, when the late Sir Frederick Smith won, he knew he couldn't top the polls, and he has said publicly about his intention was to ride in just behind her, which he did, to become junior member. And the magnitude of what she achieved, sir, has to also be looked at in the context that 1951 was the first general election when they had universal adult suffrage. Of course, one of the hallmarks of the Right Excellent Sir Grantley Herbert Adams, sir, bringing universal adult suffrage to Barbados, such that everyone was entitled to a vote, no matter the color of their skin as it was before, or the size of their pocket. And she would have been elected as a woman in the first election after that. in a case where women were tremendously disadvantaged politically and for a long time had no vote. I mean, it would mainly have been women, black women, who could not vote before that time, even more so than black men, who were largely disenfranchised too, sir. And her period, her 10 years in Parliament, marked a period of tremendous social transformation in this country under the Barbados Labour Party, sir. I remember she was on television, an interview. It would have had to be around the late 1970s, early 1980s. Certainly it was a time when the Right Honourable late Tom Adams was Prime Minister of this country. And she, in what, half hour, 45 minutes, did an extremely fine job on the achievements of the Barbados Labour Party during that period. You know, not only, as I said, the universal adult suffrage, but removing legislation which located a worker of a plantation to have to live on the plantation, and when you left and got another job, you had to move your chattel house too, and all the social reforms, the holidays with pay act, you know, the labor legislation, the development of an industrial platform for Barbados, development of a tourism product, the housing units that started within that time. I believe the Pine was one, represented here, of course, by the Member of Parliament for St. Michael's South East. The start of free secondary school education, sir, in that period, with the 4 secondary schools, Grantley Adams and Princess Margaret and St. Leonard's, sir, and Parkinson. And you know, that she was part of that legislature which would have passed all of those acts. And when you consider, as mentioned by the Honourable Member for St. Thomas, who mentioned, I think, that Dame Billy Miller was the first after her. Dame Billy was the first Barbados Labour Party member, female Member of Parliament, after Dame Ermi, 25 years after, in 1976, when she won in the by-election in the city. But the late Gertz Eastman was in fact the second woman to be in elected Parliament. That was 1971, so a whole 2 decades passed after Auntie Ermi was elected before another female was elected to this Parliament. And you know, so you look at her achievement and her entry into this Parliament, sir, within that context. Yes, that she had a father who she succeeded into that seat, but still a tremendous achievement. And of course, then followed by Her Excellency Elizabeth Thompson, present Barbados Ambassador to the United Nations, who would be her niece. And that's the kind of political background that family, the Fosters, she was a Foster before she married a Bourne, sir, would have come from. And she, in fact, her husband, she and her sister married 2 brothers. So 2 sisters, 2 Foster sisters married 2 Bourne brothers. And I commend the present Member of Parliament for St. Andrew for his initiative in bringing, at least being the prime person in bringing this resolution to this Parliament, and in insisting that, you know, the Cabinet agree and that Parliament pass this resolution to make her residence, Dame Ermi's residence, a national museum. In the present Honourable Member for St. Andrew has done a lot in terms of recognising Dame Ermey. The memorial lecture, which has been going on, I think, last year was the third year. A memorial lecture held at Aline School in the heart of the constituency in commemoration of Dame Ermey, and the Honourable Member's constituency office, I believe it is named after her as well. It certainly has a big picture of her at its location. But, you know, Dame Ermey is totally befitting of this honour and this resolution, which will seek to make a national memorial of her home, because we have to have these examples to our younger people, to let them know that you can achieve whoever you are once you focus, once you're determined, and once you stay the course, that you can achieve anything in this Barbados, whether you're male or female, whether you're born in the country or you're born in the city. So, and you know, these monuments to our heroes have to stay present before the mindsets of all of us, especially our young people. So of course, Dame Ermey has received other honours. As we know, the former East Coast Road is named after her, Dame Ermey Trudborn Highway, and has been said earlier, of course, particularly by the Honourable Member of Parliament for St. Thomas, the committee room in Parliament in Bridgetown, the home of Parliament, was renamed after her in December 2018, herself and Dame Billy Miller, the first two of the finest individuals, and not only females, two of the finest parliamentarians this country has seen. So in terms of the, and so I'm proud to help continue the legacy of the Foster family, sir, in terms of politics in this Barbados. I have those fine examples who I named before me to try to come up to high standards, sir, which, you know, I hope to do credit to someday. The building block, sir, has been spoken of both by the former Minister of Community Development, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central, and the present Minister, the Honourable Member for St. George North. South, sir. Right, so I won't speak long on that. But certainly, sir, this is, and the acquisition of the land at Bush Hall is, of course, a catalyst to develop building blocks in that area, sir, which takes into account, of course, the constituency of the Honourable Prime Ministers and your constituency as well, sir, bordering it. And so this is fundamentally important for our youth, to whom we owe an obligation to help develop. As has been said, not everyone can be an academic or will be an academic, sir. Not everyone either may be technical in the full sense of the word, but their brains are good, they're street smart, and we have to develop their entrepreneurial skills, sir. And I know when I was an opposition member of Parliament shadowing education, sir, I mentioned that I said in Parliament that I feel that we should teach young people from age 6, 7 how to be entrepreneurs in school. The then Minister, sir, of Education laughed and said, you know, that is a joke, but we heard, it was mentioned earlier here today, one of his famous statements about cutting throats made in this parliament, sir. So that was the mindset of the last government. I'm sure that the vision of the present Minister of Education, the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South East, will see that we have to do more entrepreneurial training of our young people from an early age, sir, to give them the opportunity to create jobs for themselves when they grow up. And it won't only be jobs for themselves, but their friends and others in their community, their families, sir, because a government, a governance structure, an administration cannot create jobs en masse for people. I mean, what, 26,000 odd jobs in the public service, 25, 26,000. And, you know, we realize that we can't sustain that all the time. At one time it was, I think, 29,000. And the last government cut by about 3,000, 4,000 over their 10-year period. This administration had absolutely no choice when we came into office in late 2018 to also make redundant just over 1,000, because public service can't sustain jobs. The political directorate has to create the environment where people can grow, young people can grow, that the potential of their talents can be fully realized. And the Building Block Initiative is certainly one of those areas that has to be promoted. And I listened carefully to what the Honourable Member who last spoke, who now has charge of it, the Honourable Member for St. George South, sir, said that we have set it up, the concept, sir, in pursuance of manifesto promise of the Barbados Labour Party last election. It now has to be implemented. But for it to be fully implemented, sir, assistance has to be given to these young people at all levels, the technical level, the financial level, the entrepreneurial business level, sir. And I trust that we will do all that can be done, that Cabinet will devise policies which will see this extremely noble concept fully operationalized, sir, because, as I said, we owe it to the people. The concept of giving 5% of government contracts to those within the communities and helping them build up within the communities, and also, sir, part of that is people with disabilities, has to become actualized, because there's no use having that as a policy, but then those whom the policy is supposed to assist are not able to fully access the benefits, sir. And they're not going to be able to fully access the benefits unless they're assisted and facilitated in so doing at every level, by not only the government structure but by the private sector as well, sir. I know that the former minister, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central, had told me that St. James North building block will be one of the next to come on stream, sir. I know, I have full confidence that the Honourable Member for St. George South, whose ministerial mandate they now fall under, who spoke very passionately just now on the issue, will continue that policy and decision, and that we could soon see building block established in St. James North as well, sir. Because in St. James North, certainly, as I said last month in this Parliament, has been the constituency that perhaps has been the most affected by COVID-19. In the heart of a tourist belt, sir, 80% plus of the households have been dislocated in terms of job, because hundreds of people, perhaps about 2,000 people in St. James North, used to work in some area of tourism. And therefore, to give some of these young people an opportunity now to get back into mainstream life. They have to be assisted with this kind of project, sir. And this kind of project also has other aspects of development of the individual, sir. Because tied in with this, as has been said earlier in this debate, are issues of development, of teamwork in your personality, working together with other people, your ability to resolve conflict, because if you're working in a cluster with others in terms of jobs and employment, there will be conflicts, sir. You're not going to agree with your partner, with those who you're working with at each and every stage. So you have to be able to resolve conflict, and there would have to be training in that as well, sir, and how to solve problems, because I mean, when you have your own business, your own enterprise, there will be problems with it. Problems in life, period, far less in terms of your business, sir. And you will have ups and downs, and therefore we have to also ensure that they get training in problem solving. So these are fundamental life skill issues which I am sure that the political administration will focus on as means to develop the personalities and the character of those in the building block schemes. And as we all know, sir, in St. James North, I do that within my foundation I try to do it on an annual basis. I have to sit down now and see how we will do it this year, what with social distancing protocols obviously in place. We did one last year, highly successful. Most people, as usual, had a job within the first 3 months after the conclusion. A lot of those jobs were lost, so we have to do another one again. But it's that kind of program, life and work skills program, that has to be replicated throughout the country in terms of assisting the individuals who we would want to be beneficiaries of the building blocks program. In terms of the botanical gardens, sir, again, I commend the Honourable Member for St. Michael East, sir, who as Minister of the Environment would have taken the initiative in starting the botanical gardens. So of course it has to be developed more. I'm sure that the present Minister, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central, will continue that, because it is vital for any country that takes itself seriously, sir, to have green spaces, places where people can breathe, where they can go and relax, cool out. I mean, you used to have these from the Romans, sir. You used to see about people going and after work in those days going and relax, sir. And this is vital for us, and that's why, of course, we have to be fully supportive of the initiative to have a park in Bridgetown, in the Probin Street area, around the monument for the Right Excellent Clement Payne, sir. I know that a lot of people don't feel that this is necessary, so, but a country, a government doesn't only have a duty to its citizens in terms of economic development, sir, recreational development, and areas where you can just go and expand your mind and your thought process and relax and spiritualize, has to be part of a country's development as well. So housing and land is one of the very major challenges that governments of Barbados, not only post-independence but pre-independence too, have had, sir. We can never fully satisfy the land and housing needs of all our citizens. At any given time, there are thousands of people, thousands of applications at the National Housing Corporation by residents of Barbados for land and or housing solutions. Thousands. I believe at one time there were close to 30,000, certainly over 25,000 applications. It is impossible for any government to do it. It's perhaps one of the three major social challenges of our country, together, of course, with unemployment at this stage. And a government has to therefore facilitate in every way possible the creation of housing and land solutions for its people. And the private sector has to step up in place. It means, even if it means incentivizing the private sector, sir, one of the hallmarks and achievements of the now late Prime Minister, sir, the Right Honourable Owen Arthur, the former member for St. Peter, sir, was the initiative which he took, sir, together with the present Honourable Member for St. Andrew, and who was Minister of Housing then in first term of the Right Honourable late Prime Minister's Prime Ministership, as well as the Honourable Member for St. George North, who was Parliamentary Secretary during that time. One of the main achievements of the late Prime Minister would have been the creation of mortgage facilities, 100% mortgages, facilitated by the then Barbados Mortgage Finance Company Limited, credit unions and other financial institutions, whereby people were able to access even the deposit, the 10% deposit on the purchase of the land or the house, and become property owners, sir. It's that kind of innovative thinking that...
Your Honourable Member has 2 more minutes.
Thank you, sir. That we have to do again to ease the challenges that we face with so many people, rightfully, sir, wanting to own a piece of the rock. It was mentioned earlier, the derelict buildings. I know at one time it was said, and I don't believe that the amount has been reduced by that much. There were about 1,700 derelict buildings or on lands in St. Michael alone, sir. And we have to find a way, a creative way, legally and otherwise, whereby these can become housing solutions for our citizens and residents. A lot of these buildings, sir, spots of land, as you would know, sir, as an attorney, are tied up in legal problems, because a grandmother died or a grandfather leaving this land, didn't leave a will, boy, and had about 6 children, and the 6 children, 4 children each, and troubles over who is the owner. But we have to find a creative legal device, an administrative device, whereby these properties can be released for the benefit of housing solutions, because they're no use to anybody. I mean, as we know, the Land Tax Department, as called now Barbados Revenue Authority, occasionally will sell out some of these properties for arrears of land taxes, but that obviously is not a solution at macro level for all of these derelict buildings to become marketable for ownership by those who need and who rightfully desire ownership of the piece of the rock. So, sir, these 4 resolutions are all in fine order. They will contribute to the cultural development, political development of Barbados. I mean, in the case of the one for the acquisition of the land at Belle Plaine, will contribute to the development of young people in terms of the ones at at Bush Hall, sir, will contribute to the development of the environment and the greening of Barbados, the recreational aspect of human development in terms of the botanical gardens, sir. And I'm fully in support of all of these resolutions that are being debated before your house today, sir. I'm obliged to you.